Dear Pearl, you can never understand nor explain the life of a world without God. I am afraid everyone who attempts eventually hits a wall and breaks. That makes God laugh out loud. And I noticed in the last video, I think it was Friday, people in my comment section are really starting to notice, because it's really all I see under my videos now. All the comments say, Pearl, you're too black-pilled. Pearl, you've lost hope. And I already did a show asking if I'm too black-pilled, so I got all out of the way. Got that out of the way. But have I lost hope? Now, I want to talk about that for a second. The definition of hope is a feeling of expectation and desire for certain things to happen. An example would be that modern women with children hope to find a Russell Wilson simp to save them and their bastard kid from poverty. Another example would be that Christian men hope to find a virtuous woman that won't divorce them, take half their stuff, and alienate them from their children. Many people in the red pill space will tell you that hope is not a strategy in the current dating market. In this current dating and relationship market, hope can lead you down a path of destruction in 2025. So, have I lost hope? I would say yes. Why would I have hope for modern day relationships and marriage between men and women? Tell me why. Do I have hope for myself? Of course I do. Do I have hope for my friends and family? Of course I do. But society at large, I do not. I don't. All of the things that make me less hopeful are only going to increase over time. Despite what tradcons say, America will never go back to the 1950s and 60s. Everything that's tearing society apart is only going to get worse. Modern women are going to keep being whores, having bastard kids, spending too much money, and putting themselves into debt. There's nothing that me or anyone watching this channel can do about it. When your job is to report the facts like mine is, you just keep looking at what's happening in society and anyone would lose hope. So today's show, I want people to call in and tell me why I should have hope in today's society when it comes to men and women and marriage and children. Tell me how we can get women to stop aborting their children, value their husbands, and spend less money. Tell me how we can get women to value anything other than themselves and their own selfish desires. So, I want to read a couple comments we had last video. And by the way, anyone that left these comments is more than welcome to call in. Now, by the way, this is a discussion. I try not to make it a debate. I may have counterpoints for you, but I always am going to give you the benefit of the microphone. Unless you ramble for a little bit too long, I may have to cut you off. But it's just for the quality of the show. So, GT Base said, Pearl, please don't let the daunting nature of society defeat you. Yes, Tate spent 3 years doing this, and I watched you go from nothing to having your own show, becoming successful, getting demonetized, but who cares? What matters is that you improved your life supporting your mentality, but now it seems like you're almost letting it defeat you. Tate is still doing the same shit, preaching the same message. He's just not quite as controversial about it. But get him worked up and it'll all come out. He hasn't changed, nor should you. Don't sell out. I don't even know who Pearl is anymore. Honestly, I'm baffled. Has she been lying the whole time? Do you know some of the things you said, things per you, we said tonight? Before you hated feminism, and I thought you hated women behaving and acting in certain ways. But you don't think it's liberating? Like, I'm totally baffled. Totally. I understand Pearl being black-pilled. She's a woman at the end of the day, but not Tate. As a man, when you give up leadership, it's done. I realized something tonight, or I never realized about watching all of Pearl's videos. I realized something tonight that will stay with me for a long time. Why do I still watch her? Because I still watch per se. Because I've watched her for so long, and I like her arguments and her worldview. But what she has said tonight, some of the things she has said has literally made me question her. Pearl is getting there. She is finally out of the tradcon narrative and reaching closer to the truth. Out of the darkest place of the internet, she is the closest one to the truth. Now, other people have other opinions, right? Some people are saying this is the best I've seen Pearl do. Previously, I felt like she was making things up to please others and make money, but this feels so genuine. I'm a Western male and I'm planning on marrying a Muslim woman, a young one, to experience the 1950s vibe. I'm not delusional. She'll probably get westernized and leave me when she gets older. Still, I want that glimpse in my lifetime, and I hope she'll stay with me for life, even if it's unlikely. Christopher in the chat said, I used to have so much respect for Pearl, fighting for women to be the way they used to be and men to step up and be men. The fact that she's changing her mind makes me lose respect. You are out of touch, Pearl, about things. Think thoroughly. If you think there's nothing you can do about your daughter, it's stupid. So we just leave it to chance? That's a powerless mindset. Pearl, your nihilism is a mistake. Nihilism is and always has been a mistake. As one succumbs to fear to get nihilism, we can change the world by changing ourselves. In fact, as social creatures, your health is not even possible to avoid the presence of another's best. So what's your best? You will never know it unless you keep applying actions, small, consistent actions. Know your love. As a collective society, if we focus more on me, while disregarding virtue and morals, you won't have a country, let alone a population in a couple generations. Disregard your kids or future people for now will be the downfall of us all. I mean, Bonnie Blue didn't come up with this new point of view. It's called nihilism, and that was my outlook on life. Pearl said something I agree with, though. The black pill is where I'm at. Just accept the world for how it is and navigate it accordingly. I'm playing the game with the rules we have now, not the rules I wish we had. Pearl, the way you describe questioning your sanity doing this job is what nurses go through working in an insane asylum. Even for a short time, you deal with so many nutty people. You have made a mistake, Pearl. There's no pride in being more like Blondie. Dear Pearl, you can never understand nor explain the life of a world without God. I am afraid everyone who attempts eventually hits a wall and breaks. That makes God laugh out loud. Pearl, what are you talking about? For you to say that you don't know what you will do until it happens to you just tells me that you don't know who you are and what you stand for. If you don't know what you stand for, then who are you? You're the type of person that says one thing, but you start doubting yourself when the pressure is on. It's one thing to admire someone living life on their own terms. It's another to respect the fact that those terms are debauchery. It's like you said, you respect a psychopath or a serial killer because they live life on their own terms. Pearl is like, I lost the will to live? Okay, guys, that's a little bit far. That's a little bit, okay. I certainly did. The world is beyond loss. It's tragic and unrepairable. The black pill outlook is really sad. Be more like Andrew Wilson and fight, you garbage girl. Or fight this garbage girl. So I wrote some notes that I just wanted to... I kind of wanted to spitball, if you guys will let me spitball a little bit. Because I just want to have an honest conversation about this. Because I realized during that stream, maybe my audience is confused. They're thinking, what do you stand for, Pearl? Do you stand for nothing now? So growing up, I was one of 10. I was one of 10 kids. I had 9 siblings growing up. And my parents were married for have been married for a very long time. So I went to a really, really small middle school, like super small, 30 kids. And to be honest, divorce was not the norm. It wasn't. I can remember maybe 2 divorces in our middle school. And high school was pretty similar. Most people had married parents. And you think that traditionalism is the answer. Your parents were married. You grew up with married parents. Here's the issue you get into. The world changes fast. And if you don't adapt, you get left behind. And what happens is content creators that come from conservative values and very much believe it get backed into a corner. Because what happens is you're raised one way and you believe that is true. But then you start to see people you know, and in my case, women that I knew that were better than me, do worse things that I would think I would do. Women that were with the same guy since high school, I thought would never divorce their boyfriend or their husband. Break up with their boyfriends or divorce their husbands. Women that married young, that I've known since childhood. Women I thought would never do that, whose parents didn't do that, started doing it in the last 5 years of my life. I would see the women that would come on the show and say they were traditional and realize that none of them were, not one. And when you're a YouTuber, you can't not see this. I think under 30, under 30, it's possible that you live in a pocket where you haven't noticed how fast everything's changed. However, over 30, the Michael Knowles of the world, the Matt Walshes of the world, they see traditionalism not working. They see Steven Crowder getting divorced. They see the one guy I debated, I think his name was, and it's so dishonest, and it really bothers me. Like I debated Trent Horn, and it turns out a guy that he did his podcast with for years is getting divorced. And you start to realize that the guys that did the traditional thing get the worst treatment. The worst. You just see how their wives disrespect them publicly. And things you thought worked for millennia don't work the same way they used to. Imagine if most relationships nowadays are on dating apps. What if you think you're above dating apps? But you probably just won't have a relationship. So what happens is the YouTubers, we start with a lot of these thoughts and they get backed into a corner where their worldview, for example, where Michael Knowles has to make the choice, is my worldview wrong? And I don't know if these guys, it's because of they're lying intentionally or unintentionally. I can only speculate. But you get to a point where you realize that they either want to be right so bad that they can't be honest, or they're lying to get money and they're not being honest with the audience. When I was young, I watched a lot of Daily Wire content. I did. And I thought traditionalism was coming back. I really did. But it's gone. It's dead. We are not going back to the 1950s. Now, what happens is a lot of people will tell me, well, why don't we fight? Why don't we fight back? And what tends to happen when you're a YouTuber is you get in these really heated debates and you're debating people and you start arguing about the way things should be. And because you're telling off these people, you kind of feel like you're doing something. You have the audience applauding to you. But Andrew Tate had the whole world applauding to him, and he spent a year in prison. Influencers do not have the political impact that you might think. Now, the next thing is, well, Pearl, you should fight it and convince women to be better. And what I can say is that's impossible. That is an impossible task. Women are not logical. So they're not like men where they're going to see the consequences of their actions and immediately make a better decision, right? The other thing was when I interviewed women, there would be women that seemed to have a change of heart. And what happened was they would still do the same thing. Now, you kind of get into a corner where you have to think, a lot of content creators get into this corner, and what happens is instead of being honest, they say what people want them to hear. And it would be way easier to just say, all right, guys, traditionalism is coming back. All right, guys, women should get back in the kitchen. Women should, and I have said a lot of it. But I don't see it happening. I don't. And unfortunately, and this isn't what I wanted to be true, I see especially men that do it the right way, that do it the traditional way, I see them get completely destroyed. And I see men, especially that do it the untraditional way, get a happy wife and a family. That's what I see. An example of this is there was a guy, his name's Tucker Max, I think. And I'm not even a huge reader, but this guy was one of the funniest authors I ever read. And he just wrote about his hoe escapades. And he basically just ran through like probably 1,000 women. And at the end of it, he did the typical TradCon talking point, like Dan Bilzerian, whatever. Oh, it wasn't worth it. It was so empty, da 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 da. But he goes through that. And at the end, now he has a farm in Texas with a loving wife and kids. Do you know who doesn't have a farm in Texas with a loving wife and kids? Crowder. And I hate using him because actually he's a really good person. I really like him, but there is no morality in dating. There's not. There are women that were complete whores in college. I would say are more married than the prudes. That's what I've seen. And it makes sense when you think about it because sex comes before relationships nowadays. It makes sense. I've talked to women that go on Hinge dates or Tinder dates or whatever, and they're virgins and they are trying to find a guy that's waiting till marriage. And I mean, their two choices are, and I'm being honest here, guys they aren't really attracted to. And the guys they are attracted to would just ghost them because they don't want to wait. Guys with a choice, right?